The cafeteria was buzzing with chatter, trays clattering, laughter echoing off the walls. No one expected the silence that was about to descend. It started as a joke. A Navy SEAL, grinning, leaned across the table and asked, "So, what's your rank, really?" The words were casual, lighthearted, funny even. But when she replied, the entire cafeteria froze. Every fork stopped mid-air. Every conversation cut off. Because her answer wasn't just correct, it was powerful. This is united war. And this is the story of the moment rank, respect, and shock collided in the most unexpected way. Scene setting, cafeteria. The room was packed with officers, soldiers, and staff. Lunch hour was always chaotic, a mix of casual camaraderie and quiet strategizing. People jostled through narrow aisles carrying trays loaded with food, the aroma of grilled chicken and coffee filling the air. At one table sat Lieutenant Commander Avery Blake, calm, observant, almost invisible. Her uniform was neat, her posture straight, but she didn't command attention. Not yet. She was simply enjoying her meal, quietly, methodically, like every other officer, until the joke happened. The joke, SEAL interaction. Sergeant First Class Ryan Holt, a decorated SEAL known for his teasing personality, noticed Avery across the room. With a mischievous grin, he approached. "Hey," he said, leaning casually on the table edge, "what's your rank really? You look too young to be anyone important." The cafeteria erupted in muffled chuckles. Others glanced over, sensing the familiar playful energy between soldiers. A joke, harmless, at least on the surface. Avery didn't flinch. She met his gaze calmly, almost amused. "Lieutenant Commander, sir," she replied. The words were polite, straightforward, nothing dramatic. And then came the pause, a pause that stretched like a frozen moment in time. The SEAL blinked, once, twice. He had expected a laugh, a joke, a playful deflection. Not that authority delivered with such quiet confidence. Around them, soldiers froze mid-bite. Forks hovered over plates. Coffee cups paused in mid-lift. Conversations that had been lively just seconds ago stopped cold. Every eye in the cafeteria turned, drawn to the small, calm figure that had utterly shifted the room's energy. Tension builds, the unseen authority. Avery didn't say more. She didn't need to. Her uniform, neat and precise, her posture, disciplined, her calm, measured reply, that alone carried weight far beyond her years. The SEAL's grin vanished, replaced with a mixture of awe and respect. This wasn't about ego anymore. This was about authority recognized in an instant. Other officers exchanged glances, realizing that Avery's rank was more than a title. It represented skill, experience, and quiet power that demanded recognition without a word. The cafeteria had returned to its usual noise, but the energy had shifted. Conversations resumed, but they were softer, cautious, as if everyone had just witnessed something they weren't supposed to. At the center of it all sat Lieutenant Commander Avery Blake, calm, composed, eating her meal as if nothing had happened. But her eyes were alert, scanning. Every movement in the room registered, because in her world, every observation counted. Sergeant First Class Ryan Holt, the man who had jokingly asked for her rank, sat back in his chair, processing. He had teased many officers before. Some laughed, some deflected. But Avery's reply, that measured confidence, the calm authority in her tone, had stopped him cold. He glanced at her hands, noting the subtle tattoo on her wrist, a small, almost hidden symbol he hadn't noticed before. It wasn't decorative. It wasn't personal. It was operational. Across the cafeteria, a few other officers whispered to one another. "Did you see that? She's a lieutenant commander? And that tattoo, isn't that special ops insignia?" Some tried to laugh it off, but even their own voices sounded hollow.
Everyone could feel the tension Avery had created without saying another word. Holt leaned closer, speaking under his breath so only she could hear. "Lieutenant Commander, that was some answer. Didn't expect you to shut down the room like that." Avery didn't flinch. She looked at him calmly, straight into his eyes, and said, "I answer to mission first, rank second." The words were simple, but in that cafeteria, they were explosive. It happened instantly. Forks paused mid-air, coffee cups stopped rising. Even the cooks behind the counter seemed to hold their breath. Everyone understood. This wasn't just confidence. This was experience speaking without needing permission. Holt's grin disappeared. He leaned back slowly, silently acknowledging the skill and authority he hadn't expected. Avery shifted slightly, subtly, revealing her tactical insignia just enough for anyone looking closely to notice. It wasn't flamboyant. It wasn't showy. It was quiet, earned, and respected. The officers around her realized she wasn't here to play politics. She wasn't here to win arguments. She was here to execute, and that alone commanded respect. Holt's respect grew, mixed with curiosity. He had assumed this was a simple lunch break banter, but Avery's calm demeanor, the tattoo, and her precise authority hinted at something much larger in motion. Little did he know, this cafeteria moment was just a small glimpse of the precision, intelligence, and operational skill she wielded outside these walls.
The cafeteria was emptying fast, but the echoes of Avery Blake's words lingered in the air. Soldiers whispered quietly as they left, glancing back at her. Even the cooks and staff were stealing glances. Avery remained seated, calm, every motion deliberate. She wasn't nervous, she wasn't showing off. She was simply aware of the presence of skill and rank around her and how it measured against her own. Sergeant First Class Ryan Holt, who had tried to joke moments ago, now sat forward, leaning closer, studying her. She's not just a lieutenant commander, he thought. She's more than her rank. She moves like she owns the room without even trying. He noticed how officers unconsciously gave her space, how their conversations quieted whenever she moved. The tattoo on her wrist, a subtle, almost hidden insignia, was no decoration. It was a mark of experience, of missions no one spoke about, of authority earned in ways words couldn't convey. Avery stood slowly, stretching just enough to shift her sleeve, making the tattoo catch the light. It was subtle, almost invisible unless someone was looking closely, but anyone who did see it knew what it meant. She approached the table where Holt sat, her steps measured, her presence commanding attention. "Respect isn't demanded," she said quietly. "It's recognized, and skill speaks louder than titles." Holt's jaw tightened. He nodded subtly, part awe, part realization. Nearby officers glanced at each other. Some shifted in their seats, trying to hide their surprise. Others simply stared, realizing the power dynamic in the room had changed. This wasn't about who had medals on their chest. This wasn't about who had been in the service longest. This was about presence, skill, and confidence that could alter the course of any situation. Even the admiral, walking past the cafeteria unnoticed, would have paused at that moment, because Avery Blake's calm authority was impossible to ignore. Avery's eyes flicked toward the door as the lunch crowd thinned. There were plans she hadn't discussed yet, operations that required precision, skill, and absolute control. She didn't need the room to applaud. She didn't need to explain. Her next moves would speak louder than any words, and those who were paying attention already understood it. Holt followed her gaze, curious. "Mission ahead?" he asked quietly. Avery didn't answer immediately. She just smiled faintly, a hint of strategy in her eyes. "Soon," she said, "and when it begins, only skill matters." The cafeteria was empty now, quiet except for the soft hum of lights and the distant clatter of dishes being cleaned. Lieutenant Commander Avery Blake walked with purpose, every step deliberate, her posture calm but commanding. She didn't rush. She didn't announce herself. She didn't need to. Even in silence, her presence spoke volumes. Sergeant First Class Ryan Holt trailed a few steps behind, still processing what had happened. Minutes ago, he had been joking, expecting laughter. Now he was following someone whose skill and authority were undeniable. He glanced down at her wrist again. The subtle sniper tattoo glinted under the cafeteria lights. It wasn't decoration, it wasn't flair. It was a symbol of mastery, of missions executed flawlessly, of authority recognized without question. Avery paused near the exit, scanning the empty cafeteria. She spoke softly, but her words carried weight. "Authority isn't a title," she said. "It isn't medals or ribbons. It's earned. And when it's earned, people notice, even if you never speak a word." Holt nodded slowly, understanding. He had seen many leaders in his time, but few could stop a room without raising their voice. Holt finally spoke, his voice low and sincere. "Lieutenant Commander, I get it now. You're not just a rank. You're someone who makes people listen, without demanding it." Avery gave a faint, knowing smile. She didn't boast. She didn't need to. She just acknowledged the truth, that skill, precision, and calm confidence command respect instantly. Around them, though the cafeteria was empty, the impression she left lingered. Every soldier, every officer who had glimpsed her authority would remember it, a moment of quiet power that spoke louder than any joke, any rank, or any words. Avery adjusted her sleeve, the tattoo catching the light one last time. There were missions ahead, operations that demanded precision and control. She didn't need to announce them. The people who mattered already knew her worth. Holt watched her, silently acknowledging that the joke had backfired in the most unforgettable way. As she walked out of the cafeteria, calm and purposeful, the camera of this story would linger on one truth. Rank can command, authority can guide, but true power is recognized in silence, precision, and skill. The SEAL's question had been casual. The answer had been devastating. For ego, for assumptions, for anyone underestimating her. Lieutenant Commander Avery Blake had frozen the room, earned respect, and proven that authority isn't about asking, it's about commanding. And in that cafeteria, in that moment, everyone who saw it understood it forever.